Hello, everyone, and welcome to this video. And we're going to be talking about Jim Crockett. Rodney, I think we'd have to all agree, and Jack, we'd have to all agree that Jim Crockett, promoting for over 40 years, almost 40 years in North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, probably one of the greatest promoters in professional wrestling. Would you all agree?
Yeah, and it's not only our agreement. Everybody that I've ever talked to or heard talk about Jim Crockett Promotions, they love that guy because he treated them well. He expected you to work, but he paid them, always paid them better than probably any other promoter out there.
Actually, as far as the pioneers of wrestling, probably, if I would say, the most successful promoter of all of them, truly, because he started the company really from nothing.
Yeah.
And created a huge following throughout the Carolinas and Virginia. And so he definitely goes down. And not many people talk about the importance of Jim Crockett Sr. and just how brilliant he was. Tremendously hard worker, always involved. And I don't think he sat at home while somebody else run the show. I believe he was there.
I think he was too. Well, we're going to start. And this is not Jim Crockett Promotions. Basically, this is not his shows, but these are wrestling events that took place before Jim Crockett got there, and Jack's got those 4 events.
March 2nd, 1931, Eastern States Championship Wrestling at the Auditorium in Richmond, Virginia. Waldeck Zbyszko defeated Jack Washburn in 13 minutes. Tommy Marvin defeated Nick Nestor in 18 minutes. Milo, the great Milo Steinborn, versus Paul Jones with a time limit draw of 30 minutes. And then the NWA World Heavyweight title, the New York State Athletic Association World Heavyweight title, Jim Londos, the champion, defeats Matros Kilinenko.
Yeah, that's a very hard one.
In 36 minutes. So there's 4 matches and probably well over 2 hours of action. That's pretty good. January 6, 1932, ESCW again at the City Auditorium in Richmond. George Consonaros defeats Norton Jackson in 12 minutes and 30 seconds. Tommy Marvin defeated Bill Nelson in 42 minutes. Rudy Dusick defeats Cy Williams. And Rudy, that guy has got quite a history. In fact, his son, we need to try to get him on here sometime. January 27th, 1932, ESCW event again in Charlotte, North Carolina. Rayford Hoover defeated Kid Byers in 7 minutes and 10 seconds. The best 2 out of 3 falls. Les Grimes defeated Clyde Robinson. The best 2 out of 3 falls match also featured Joe Savoldi, who invented the drop kick, by the way, defeated Hardy Kruskamp. And then on December 20th, 1933, ESCW again, at the arena in Greensboro, North Carolina, Nick Bazanis defeated Mike Kilonis, in 38 minutes. Jim Hesselin defeated Gus Pampas, and that's all we have for that particular card.
And
If I could just real quick, we can tell that most of these names are the real names, because if they were ring names, they would have changed them.
I was not, as I was looking and doing research on this, I did not realize that Joe Savoldi is the guy that invented the drop kick.
Yeah.
When I looked it all up, we knew his son, Jumping Joe Savoldi. I met him several times in, I think it was Mid-South Wrestling, wasn't it, Rod?
Yes, it was awesome.
The following information that we have is from I believe from a book by Tim Hornbaker. You can go to the legacyofwrestling.com. He has The Death of the Territories. He has a book on the National Wrestling Alliance, the Capital Revolution, the Rise of the McMahon Wrestling Empire. All of these are available on Amazon, or you can go to legacyofwrestling.com and you can find information about this. Because while I was doing the research, really, he was the only one that had the research on the beginnings, Jim Crockett.
The Crockett Empire was launched in 1934 during a crazy period for wrestling in Charlotte. There was a mixture of shenanigans, ballyhoo, and controversy. I love all of that. In the city that nearly derailed wrestling business altogether, John Francis Irish Horan was the promoter and matchmaker. Horan had reportedly entered the town the year before, boasting impressive credentials. He was said to be a former boxer, light heavyweight wrestling champion of the world from 1918 to 1925, a celebrated trainer of the likes of John Banansky and Ray Steele. The true facts are a little different. Horan was born in 1900 in Peoria, Illinois, and by the age of 16, he was working on touring the circus. He did explore his athletic prowess as a bantamweight boxer and a lightweight grappler. For around 17 years, he was the business manager and press agent for the world famous entertainer Tom Nix, and worked for Charlie Sparks' Downey Show. He boasts of professional wrestling accomplishments in the ring at the time as a famous matchmaker in New York, were mostly fabricated. Let me say that again. He was a con artist.
It looks like he may have took some or maybe Nick Goulas took some things from this man. He said, this is what he said. However, at the time, no one in Charlotte had a clue. The sports writers and citizens believed that they were being represented in the grappling field by a real professional. Horan was indeed that, but it came very natural for him to utilize his tremendous experience in the field of publicity under the circus tent to go overboard with his statements about his background. The crafty promoter also made promises to bring in names such as Jim Lundos. Is that how you say that guy's name? Londos, and Jim Browning, and build wrestlers as champions even after they had lost the titles.
Yes. Brilliant.
Looking at the facts in the case, it all seems kind of appropriate. But again, the Charlotte Boxing Convention, which regulated professional wrestling, the Charlotte Observer sports editor, Jake Wade, and sports writer Fritz Littlejohn were all in the dark. Okay?
Featuring all non-heavyweights on his shows, Horan imported the likes of Frank Masawitz, Leo Alexander, Charlie Allen, Leo Wallach, Al Stetcher, Joe Campbell, Eddie Pope, Mike Kilonis, Pinky Gardner, and his reported protege, Banansky. His programs drew upwards of 3,500 fans, and on March 19th, 1934, more than 4,000 saw Banansky topple Gardner in 1 hour, 9 minutes to retain his Midwest Wrestling Association light heavyweight title. The large crowd was expecting a scientific spectacle between two of the quickest wrestlers in the industry, but they received something on the other end of the spectrum. Banansky won. He was about as pathetic a figure as you'll ever see. He didn't look as though he belonged in the same ring with the cool and workmanlike Gardner. Banansky looked like anything but a champion. Fans were very upset by the finish, and some believe wholeheartedly that it was all faked. Regardless of the horrible press, Horan pushed on, saying that he couldn't do anything about the match's result, and advertised his next show, which was headlined by Banansky defending his title against Charlie Midget Fisher on April the 3rd. That was an interesting bill, specifically because Fisher had upended Banasky for the light heavyweight championship on February 28, 1934 in Columbus. Banasky had no championship to defend in Charlotte versus Gardner or Fisher. Horan didn't care. He drew 4,000 plus for the first title match and expected even more for the Banasky-Fisher exhibition. On top of that, it was released in the press that Horan had recently gone to New York City to deal with bookers in a talent-sharing deal to bring major names to Charlotte, including heavyweights for the first time, an innovation he believed would tempt large audiences.
Rodney?
Shortly after announcing the Monday, April 3rd event, problems between Irish Horan and the Charlotte Boxing Commission surfaced. The advertising and talent was arranged in advance, but the commission refused to give its blessings to the show and cited the fact that there was a boxing program at the Armory on Friday. The commission wanted to run wrestling and boxing shows on alternating weeks. Refused to sanction the shows because it was unfair to the boxing promoters who were putting on the show Friday night and had already secured sanction for their billing. Additionally, the Charlotte City manager, J.B. Pridgeon, and the city council both offered up opinions on the matter, backing up the decision not to sanction Horan's show. To safeguard his show, Horan, is it Horan? I think is it Horan, isn't it?
Yeah.
Obtained a restraining order from the Superior Court preventing the commission from interfering, and a hearing was scheduled for the Monday morning of April the 3rd to discuss the case. Through the press, Horan dropped a bomb on his adversaries, saying that the Boxing Commission had no legal authority over professional wrestling and that he didn't need approval from that body to go forward with his operations. Horan admitted that he was fighting this thing through because he stood to lose money and because he felt for some reason that the commission had taken an unfair stand towards him. He stated that in the past, the commission had allowed boxing and wrestling shows to run in the same week, and he recommended the creation of the city wrestling organization to supervise the sport.
Before we move on,
my goodness.
Before we move on, Jack, what do you take out of this? Was they going after this man? Was what they were doing to him correct? I mean, yes, he was. I don't think they knew that he was at the point. They didn't know that he was a con man. But were they doing him wrong in this instance?
If they were unaware of the con that he had pulled off, then yeah, they were definitely unfair for going after him.
I mean, it looks like they were trying to hinder him from promoting wrestling. There could be a reason for that coming up on later on down as we speak a little bit more. Rodney, what do you think about what is going on with the this promoter?
It sounds like they got a lot of heat from that previous match. The commission did. They had a lot of complaints, so they were probably saying, "Okay, we've got to rein this guy in," because they probably had a lot of fan complaints to them, a lot of letters and calls. Well, I don't know if they got calls, but they probably got a lot of letters, a lot of people come knocking on their doors talking about what a ripoff that was. And so they were probably in the roundabout way putting the screws to it.
The day prior to Warren's card, the Boxing Commission sanctioned his event, ending the need for court action. Giles said that the reason for the reversal was for the best interest of the game, and the organization officially adopted a resolution allowing only one boxing or wrestling program a week. In response, Horn declared that he could run weekly. If he could run weekly, he'd be able to secure better talent. People wondered how all the controversy would affect his April 3rd show, and only 2,800 fans paid to see Fisher beat Banasky to unify whatever claims the latter had with his own. 8 days later, another disappointing crowd turned out at the Armory, showing a 3-match card featuring heavyweights, which he felt would draw a bigger crowd. Maybe not. All right.
The feud between Horan and the Charlotte Boxing Commission continued to brew. The wrestling matchmaker scheduled his next show for April 27th, the same evening as a boxing program staged by the Charlotte Athletic Club. The Boxing Commission and the City Council both approved the fistic event. Horan stubbornly refused to let up on his decision despite the growing odds.